Starting a business can seem like a daunting task, unless you have a partner like Shopify. They have the tools you need to start and grow your business. From designing a website to marketing to selling and beyond, Shopify can help with everything you need. There's a reason millions of companies like Mattel, Heinz, and Allbirds continue to trust and use them. With Shopify on your side, turn your big business idea into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
Welcome back. This is the Roger Stone Show at 77 WABC Radio. We are the crown jewel of AM radio. And now it is really my great privilege, indeed my honor, to have as our guest Alina Habba, who is an extraordinarily able attorney who represents President Donald J. Trump. Now, I'm a pretty shrewd observer of these things. To my mind, based on her performance, both in the courtroom, based on what I've read, and outside the courtroom, based on what I've seen, I really think Alina Habba is one of the most effective, one of the most articulate, one of the most knowledgeable, and one of the most persuasive lawyers that I have seen in 45 years in the American public arena. And it is my great honor to welcome Alina Habba here to the Roger Stone Show.
I'm so happy to be here.
Well, you are now a grizzled veteran of the New York court system, having just gone through the let's call it the valuation trial before Judge Engoron. Where does that case stand today, and what happens next?
It is completed all but for the closing arguments, which will be January 11th. We are in, I would say, what will be the beginning of a very long haul of appellate procedure on that because, as you know, Roger, the judge found us guilty before we even walked into court. So we've had an uphill battle, frankly, with our hands tied behind our back between gag orders and everything else. But the trial really went very well. Obviously it won't be reported that way, but it has gone incredibly well. We had tremendous experts. We've had people say that they did nothing wrong. We've had the leading accounting experts say that there was absolutely nothing wrong and that the complaint lacks merit. Deutsche Bank came out and said the Trump organization was the big whale that they always wanted, and they were paid loans early. They paid loans on time. They were never in default. This is one big, giant hoax, and it's been a waste of almost 11 weeks. But we're almost there. We wrapped up, rested our case. They rested their case. So we, we'll just be waiting. We should get a decision after closing arguments sometime late January, probably.
Now, is there currently, it's very hard to keep track of this, is there currently a gag order in place regarding what you and the president can and cannot say about this case?
Yes. There is. And the constitutionality of that is tremendously violative, tremendously scary for our country, I think, to gag attorneys in the courtroom and out of the courtroom, let alone, leading candidates, really new low for our country, frankly. So, we're going to be fighting that as well and moving on up and doing what we need to do in that regard.
Well, let me say what you can't say, which is I read your cross-examination of Michael Cohen, which was nothing less than brilliant. I would say devastating. Now, Michael Cohen is someone that I have, unfortunately for me, known for many years. He's lied about me under oath before the U.S. Congress. He's lied about me under oath in front of grand juries. This is what the man does. He's a liar. I think you decimated him. And for the state, either in this case or in the other New York case brought by Alvin Bragg to to rely on Michael Cohen, a convicted liar, as a witness seems to me to be shall we say, a very thin reed. And then yesterday we read that his lawyers applied for essentially early release from his supervised status as a convict, where he's out of prison, but he's still on supervised release. And his lawyers actually cited in their argument why he should be released early 3 cases that actually don't even exist.
They used AI, they think. They used ChatGPT. Could you imagine? So they think that they used ChatGPT or AI and had one of these letters drawn, and the judge has now ordered that they show proof, A, of who was involved in drafting the letter, if Michael Cohen was involved in drafting the letter as well, and why there is absolutely no case law and the cases are fake. And it's really interesting. ChatGPT. I'm really looking to see if they have anything else they come up with, but I'd be willing to bet everything that he had something to do with that, and it's really ridiculous.
It is. We're having a little trouble with your phone connection. I know you have been good enough to call us in between flights as you are connecting, so we appreciate that, and we'll roll with it. This recent decision where President Trump argued in D.C. in front of Judge Chutkan that any act that he performed on January 6th was in his role as president of the United States, and therefore he is entitled to immunity, was rejected by Judge Chutkan. The president, the president was prepared to, I guess, did appeal that to the Circuit Court of Appeals, but now Special Counsel Jack Smith has kind of leapfrogged the appeals court, taking it directly to the U.S. Supreme Court, where it probably would have ended up anyway, because I don't think, having been through the appeals court in D.C., specifically regarding the gag order on me, wasn't optimistic that the president would have gotten a fair or favorable decision there. But I'm told, I'm not a lawyer, as you know, that generally speaking, the courts don't like this. The Supreme Court doesn't like this. They like to hear things that have gone through the process. Were you surprised by the court's decision?
No, I think, there's a stay now, and the judge had to respect that there's a stay in place now pending this decision. The Supreme Court, usually you would have to show some sense of urgency. And as we know, Jack Smith's whole motto with the radical left basically is, let's rush this before election. That's our urgency. I was actually, Roger, this morning in the Second Circuit in New York, a Court of Appeals, arguing against Michael Cohen's team. We beat him in a case last year, and he appealed it. And I was arguing this exact issue, presidential immunity and the scope of it, and the importance of a president being able to speak, being able to make decisions, and having those immunities in place, no matter who the sitting president is, so that they can do their job effectively. And, it's a very important argument. I'm looking forward to seeing what they do, but it has stayed the January 6th case, and it's not going to proceed until it is heard. So we'll see what happens there. We'll see what happens there. But I still have faith in the Supreme Court somehow. I still do.
Well, it's interesting because, of course, they continue to cite the United States versus Richard Nixon, in which the President Nixon argued that his presidential immunity meant that he did not have to turn over the tapes. That case was wrongly decided. The Supreme Court, because anti-Nixon hysteria in the country, threw out 200 years of rulings regarding the president and executive privilege. So that standard is a fake standard. It may be the standard based on law, but there was no internet in those days, and there was a hysteria in the country. I believe, just my opinion, that case was wrongly decided. But the greater significance here is that even the Washington Post, perhaps the worst newspaper in the country when it comes to bias and propaganda, even they recognize that what's really upsetting Jack Smith is the fact that this has knocked him off his timetable. In other words, they are desperate to bring the president to just prior to Super Tuesday, the greatest single contest for delegates to the Republican National Convention who will nominate our candidate for president. And it now appears to me, regardless of what the Supreme Court decides ultimately, that timetable has been disrupted. So I guess I would say this week has been a good week, no?
It was a good week. I think it was a good week. And like I said, I do have faith in the Supreme Court. They have to be the arbiter. They have to step in and protect, the demise of our judicial system. That's who has to do it. We have separation of powers. We have judicial branch, and they are the head. So I think it was a good week for President. I think it was a good week for the Constitution. And I hope that, we persist at this rate. It's unfortunate that you have these AGs and DAs that are motivated by politics and trying to interfere with an election. That's really not what you're supposed to do. And hopefully, law and order will take over. I hope so, because I haven't seen it for the past year, to be honest.
As you know, there is no current special counsel law in place. The law that did exist has expired. There was an argument that was brought unsuccessfully against Robert Mueller when he was designated as a special counsel that he wasn't a U.S. attorney. His appointment was never approved by the Congress, and therefore his appointment was illegitimate. That was rejected by the courts in D.C. Those same facts would pertain to Jack Smith. Has there been any thought to bringing that action, not in D.C., but bringing that action potentially in Florida? Because I think the argument has merit. I'm not sure that Jack Smith's appointment passes legal muster.
Yeah. I can't obviously get into privileged communications. I can tell you that there is definitely a strong legal team with me thinking of every single angle and issue, and we are on top of it. And that's all I'll say on that. So
I appreciate that.
We definitely are fighting for the country as a whole, and that is something we're considering.
Yeah, I appreciate that there are certain matters that you are, because of the privilege, not able to discuss. And we certainly respect that. I'd like you, if you would, for a moment, to focus on Donald J. Trump, the man, because people get an impression of him from his public appearances, and he's always entertaining. He understands what most professional politicians. By the way, I don't consider him a politician. I consider him a political leader. There's a big difference. Donald Trump will never be a politician, but people just have no idea what he's really like. They don't understand how funny he can be, how even-keeled he can be, how relaxed he can be in a crisis like this, how generous he can be, how I've never seen anybody at his height of power and prominence who cares more about little people.
Yeah, that's so true.
Tell us about the Donald Trump that you've seen.
Yeah, I'm very lucky. Honestly, I knew the president obviously prior. There's two things. There's the client, and then there's the man, and there's the president, right? So for me, the client and the president are one thing, and then there's Donald Trump, and he is when I tell you, kind to everyone, every staff member, is the guy that waters the plants to, the military, to whoever is around him, people that just want a picture. We have been in situations where flights have been delayed, canceled, and it's 3:00 in the morning, and we're in some random airport, and he will make sure that he shakes everyone's hand, takes a picture with them, and has not lost sight of the excitement that people have when they see him. And he's been very famous, arguably the most famous person in the planet for the past, before he was president, he was famous, So he's humble, he's kind, and he is funny. That's the truth, and he loves his music. So if you get to see that side of him that you and I have seen, Roger, I think it almost, it's very endearing and it's very kind. And the anger that we see sometimes come out, he's under siege. So, if somebody's attacking your kids, if somebody's attacking your wife, your family, the country you love, you get angry because you care. So, that's the person I know. He's very passionate about this country. There is no personal gain for him in this political world. If anything, it's really been quite disturbing for him and his family, but he's passionate about the country. So, he really embodies America, but more importantly is he emboldens the people around him. I've become who I am because he pushes and he supports you and makes you feel strong, and it's a real gift. Honestly, it's an honor.
Fellas, Degree Cool Rush deodorant, right? Well, last year they changed the formula, and guys were mad about it. One dude even started a petition. So guess what? Degree heard us, admitted they messed up, and brought the original Cool Rush scent back exactly how it was. And it's in Walmart, Target, and other stores now for under $4. So grab some and remember why its cool, crisp, and fresh scent made it the #1 men's antiperspirant for the last decade. Degree Cool Rush is back, and it smells like victory for all of us.
Get ready for Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World. Now open at Universal Orlando Resort. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
In golf, precision is everything, on and off the course. PGA of America chose advanced 5G solutions from T-Mobile for Business for smooth operations and seamless transactions. Together, we enhance ticketing and concessions for better fan experiences from gate to green. This is pro-level efficiency. This is PGA of America with T-Mobile for Business. Take your business further at T-Mobile.com/now.
This episode is brought to you by Principles. Ray Dalio, legendary investor and New York Times best-selling author, wants to pass along his understanding of how countries go broke, because he believes the U.S. budget and debt situation needs to be addressed. To give you that knowledge, he has put the draft of his book, How Countries Go Broke, The Big Cycle, online for free. It's available now at economicprinciples.org.
I tell you where I find a difference. Look, I've worked for 4 presidents. The thing about Trump is he is so completely his own man. In other words, he's not handled, he's not managed, he's not scripted, he's not fed talking points.
We all know we can't script him.
No, but he's genuine. He's genuine.
Yeah.
He's authentic. I think that's why people like him, because I think they look at all these other politicians and they know that, wow, what that guy is saying, that was probably written by some 28-year-old staff member. Trump very much marches to his own drummer. If I had $1 for every single person who knows that I've known him for 45 years and says, if he would just stop posting stuff on social media, no, that's never, ever going to happen, ever.
No, he cannot be controlled. I don't think that you want him controlled. I think that part of why people felt safe in this country when he was in charge is because he was in charge, and that's the truth. He listens. Now, don't get me wrong. He listens. He does listen, and he takes in any advisor's advice. He listens to those people. And he ultimately will make decisions, educated decisions, based on advisors and everyone. And he's surrounded by a lot of amazing people. But he's very well read. He's very well versed, and he's very kind. And he definitely doesn't make decisions to hurt other people. He truly does have the country's best interest at heart.
There's no question that being president of the United States has literally cost him billions of dollars. Before he got into politics, he was universally loved across the board. Right. Rich people, poor people, black people, white people, young people, old people, urban people, rural people. Everybody loved Donald Trump. Look how many movies he's been in. Look how many rap songs he's been lionized in. He's not doing this because it's some power trip. He's not doing it because he needs the prominence. He's probably the most famous person in the world. He's not doing it because he needed a big fancy mansion. I'm sorry, I've been in the White House and I've been in Mar-a-Lago. The White House was built in the 1700s and it's beautiful. I respect it, but it's antiquated. Whereas Mar-a-Lago is, well, first of all, it's worth a heck of a lot $18 million, but it's the most opulent, incredibly historic place you can imagine on Earth. And I walked through it with him when he was considering buying it after it had been for 15 years. The government owned it. Meriwether Post, the heiress to the Post cereal fortune, died, and she willed it to the U.S. government. The government didn't know what to do with it. President Nixon considered using it as a Southern White House, but then he decided that it was too fancy, too rich, wouldn't play well to his political base. So they basically boarded the place up. I walked through him with it when he was considering on bidding with the federal government to buy it from them. It had a lot of water damage. It was dusty. And I kind of said, wow, this is like the Addams Family house. I mean, this is like a haunted house. And he looked at it and he said, no, you don't understand. This could really be magnificent again. And then he painstakingly recreated Mar-a-Lago as the original, bringing in artisans from Italy, from Spain, people to paint tile, people to do specific things. It's one of the most magnificent places on Earth. He certainly didn't run for president because he needed Air Force One, because Trump Force One, that's really traveling in style, I must tell you. So he's not in this for any of the accoutrements of being president. He's not in it for the grandiosity. This guy really loves the American people, and he hated what was happening to the country, which is why he ran the first time. Look, I tried to get him run in 1988. I tried to get him to run in 2000. I tried to get him to run in 2012. By 2016, he'd had enough. He had enough of seeing the country losing. He had enough of the incompetence running our government. I think you make an excellent point. The great personal cost to Donald Trump has been astronomical. And honestly, right now, if he would just quit the race for president and go away, I think they'd leave him alone. The reason they're trying to prosecute him is because he's leading in the polls, because he is poised for the greatest political comeback in American political history.
It's true. It's true. Well said. I can't say it better than that. It's true.
So going back to New York, if we could for a moment, the other New York case, the so-called business records case brought by Alvin Bragg, which to me should be a civil case. What is the status of that, and when will that go to trial?
Look, I mean, you talked about my cross-examination in the Attorney General case of Michael Cohen, and I got him to admit on the record that he perjured himself twice. New perjury charges, right? So he perjures himself. This is a star witness for the criminal case as well as for Letitia James. They have to be really considering what they're doing. And after seeing Letitia, the press, even CNN today said this is the most bogus case, Letitia James. I couldn't believe it. It was CNN. I hope Alvin Bragg's looking at that and considering that before they try and bring a trial. They're still in not discovery per se, but they're in the beginning steps of a criminal case, and we'll see what happens there. But don't forget, it's another Michael Cohen special. He paraded around, and, their cases are crumbling because their star witness crumbled. So we'll see. I don't think that one, will go very far if Alvin's watching what happened with Letitia James.
Yeah, it's really quite extraordinary. You probably can't say this, so I will. The judge in that case made a $15 contribution to Joe Biden's campaign for election. To me, that means the judge has a bias and should step aside. It doesn't matter if it's $15 or $50 or $500 or $5,000. It violates the canon of ethics. It's against the rules for the judge to donate. He did it anyway. There was a legitimate motion to him to recuse himself, and he refuses. How can
That's the problem. That's the problem. The judges are doing. They have to recuse themselves. So you're actually applying to the judge themselves, saying, please get off this case. You have a bias. And they don't want to get off the case. They're high profile, especially these judges that are at the end of their tenure. They want to go be mediators somewhere. They like the publicity. We've seen it in the trial I just did. And it's really ruining our credit of the judicial system and the robe. And it's a shame.
I'm kind of interested in how this has impacted you personally. I mean, you had a thriving legal practice. Now you have arguably the most important client in the country. The hours you put in, I mean, I watch you very carefully, and you know I'm a fan. How has this impacted your personal life?
You know, I'm really lucky that my children have been fortunate enough to get to know the president, and he is so kind to them and my husband and my family. And because of that, I think the tolerance level in my home is very high. But I work all the time. I do press, I go to trial, and then I do prime time usually and go to bed, and sometime in between try and see my children who are, relatively young. But I have to say that my entire family and my entire support system all are so petrified of what's going on in the country that they are gracious to me. They all help when I need an extra hand. And I'm just very lucky. I feel really, Roger, blessed. You've seen me. I'm still smile. I have a great time. I never complain. I really feel honored to be in this position, and we take it a day at a time. But when he's 76 years old and he has more energy than me, it just reminds me I don't, to keep fighting. So I love it. Yes, it has changed my life completely, but in a good way, and I love it. I really do.
Yeah, it is. It's really amazing his attitude. I mean, I saw him about a week ago. And look, a lesser man would have folded. I mean, they wrote at the end of Watergate, I think this is untrue, but Woodward and Bernstein wrote that Nixon would get drunk at night and was walking around the White House talking to the portraits of former presidents. By the way, had no source on that, probably didn't really happen. The thing about Trump is, under all this pressure, he's resilient. He's determined. Yeah. He's extraordinarily confident. It's amazing how confident he remains. He's upbeat. The hours he puts in, I'm younger than he is by 6 years, but, as you know, sometimes he'll call you at 1:30 in the morning and ask you, what are you doing? Sleeping? Yeah. Sleeping, sir? He's always been that way, by the way. He never, ever required a lot of sleep. And he's always working. When he's on the golf course, he's still thinking. When he's dining, he's still thinking. When he's watching TV, or when he's as well as his office hours, he's always working. We used to have this ritual in which he would fly every Friday afternoon from New York to Palm Beach to spend the weekend of the winters at Mar-a-Lago, and then he would fly back Sunday night. And I would often hitch a ride, because I then lived in Miami, back and forth. And I would say to him, why don't we fly back Monday morning? Now, he was already a billionaire many times over. Why don't we fly back Monday morning? He said, no, we can't do that. I said, why not? He said, well, I got to be at my desk at 7 o'clock Monday morning. I mean, that is the Donald Trump work ethic.
True. It's true.
He's never been in a situation in which, he had to do it, but his work ethic is extraordinary. I knew both his parents. They were vital into their 90s. Donald Trump's father, Fred, went to the office until the day before he died. He was in the office. So right. He's of extraordinarily hardy stock. Look, I think you're extraordinarily fortunate to represent him, but at the same time, I think you have done an extraordinary job on his behalf. I thank God every day for the good services of Alina Habba.
Oh, thank you, Roger. Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. Unfortunately, we are out of time. I want to thank Alina Habba, a lawyer for President Donald J. Trump, for joining us right now on the Roger Stone Show. God bless you and Godspeed.
This is the Roger Stone Show on 77 WABC.